Morning, everyone. Please let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me. Welcome. Thumbs up from Cindy. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Elizabeth. I'm super excited that you're here with me today talking about the independent seat. This is such a fundamental part of feeling that connection and that harmony and that balance with your horse. So thank you for being here. I know if you're in the US, yesterday was Thanksgiving. I hope that you got to enjoy some time with your friends and your family, and hopefully your horses as well. If you're anything like me, you ate way too much. And so today's a good day to kind of reset. And I'm going to give you some motivation to get out there and move your bodies and work on your fitness because that is such an important part of riding. So before we get started, please go ahead, open up the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from. I see Renee is here, Lisa's here, Gail is here. Welcome. I'm Amelia. I'm in California. I'm in Camarillo, California. It's a beautiful day outside. Today, we're going to be talking about the independent seat. We're going to be going for about 90 minutes for the webinar today. My team is here helping me out in the chat. So Nicole and Joellen and Neve are all here. If you have questions as I go through the presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat and we will do our best to answer your questions. I'll also be doing a little bit of a Q&A at the end of the session today. Please turn off your distractions, pay attention. I put a lot of effort into putting together a really good presentation to help you understand everything you need to know about your independent seat. The replay will be available through Sunday for 3 days. So if for any reason you need to rush off, you can always come back and watch the replay. And for those of you who are here live, we will be giving you a free ride along podcast at the end of the webinar, just as a thank you for being here today, because it does make such a big difference when you show up live. It makes it really fun for me and also for my team. And it just lets us know that you're super dedicated to learning this stuff and to taking your riding to the next level. So my promise to you today is I will show you how you can develop your independent seat this winter. And when you develop your independent seat, it allows you to take your riding to the next level. And it takes you one step closer to your riding dreams, whatever those might be. I always feel like as we come to the end of the year, especially this time of year, you start to reflect on what you've accomplished this year and then also what you want to take forward. And maybe you're already thinking about your goals for the year ahead. And certainly working on your position and your seat should be a part of that journey. So in today's webinar, we're going to be covering what is an independent seat, why it is the most important part of your position, how you can develop your seat so that you can feel that connection and that harmony and that balance with your horse. This webinar is for all riders. So whether you're just a beginner rider, let me know who here is more of a beginner rider. You're just trying to figure out how to sit the trot, how to canter for the first time, how to stay balanced in the saddle and not fall off. We've all been there. This webinar is also for you if you're a more advanced rider, because believe it or not, I ride Grand Prix and I'm still always working on developing and improving my seat, because the better balance that I am in the saddle, the more my horse can move with expression and the more I'm able to communicate with those really invisible aids. So independent seat is something that we're all always working on. And the system that I use to teach rider position is very step by step. It's very effective. I've trained tens of thousands of students at this point through our online programs. And I've seen this program work for beginner riders, advanced riders, people in jump saddles, Western saddles, on off the track thoroughbreds, on warm bloods, on basically any type of horse, any type of rider. This system will work for you. So I was thinking back about learning how to ride. And I want you all to just reflect back on that, learning how to ride. And the first time that you cantered, maybe some of you haven't cantered yet. That's okay too. But I learned to canter on a wonderful school horse named Galen. And my riding instructor, she was so wonderful at the time because she would always put me on the lunge line, and she had a very safe way of teaching us how to canter. But I can still remember when Julie would be like, okay, now it's time to canter. And I'd get these butterflies in my tummy and I would feel myself tense up and get nervous because I hadn't found my seat yet. I didn't know and I didn't understand how to really connect to that big wave-like motion of the canter, right? The canter is very up and down. It's a very different movement than the walk and the trot. And so at first, I was allowed to hold on to the front of the saddle, to the grab strap, to kind of pull my seat into the saddle. And I can still remember the first time that I really felt connected, that I felt my seat connect to Galen in the canter. And it was so magical. It was so exciting. And in that moment of connection through my seat, all of my fear and trepidation about the canter disappeared because when you feel your seat connect and when you can really trust that connection through your seat, then everything changes. And I don't know about you, but I love riding and it's such an incredible feeling. I would say I'm definitely addicted to that feeling of the connection and the movement. And when you feel your horse's movement coming through your body and coming through your seat, that's what makes it really special. So that's why this webinar on the independent seat is so important because my goal today is if I can help you understand a little bit more how to feel that connection and that harmony with your horse. It's going to give you that confidence. It's going to make you feel safer, but it's also what's so fun about riding. So what I'd like to do is I would like to start off by showing a video of some riders that I admire. So, because I think it's really helpful if we have a visual for what we're going for. Like, what is that ideal rider position? So let me know in the chat, who is your favorite rider? Who's a rider that you watch and you admire and you're just like, ah, they make it look so darn easy and it's just so magical. So, this is a rider that I admire. This is Carl Hester. And I want you to all really focus on his rider position. So the first thing that we notice is how he looks like a centaur, right? He really just is a part of this amazing horse. His heels are down, his seat is glued into the saddle. He's not bouncing. We don't see any airtime. Also notice the contact, like his hands are so steady. You can see that the bit is very steady in the horse's mouth. And as he's doing his Grand Prix test, which we all know is quite a complicated test, he's able to communicate with very invisible aids. Like we can see, okay, for the half pass here, his leg is slightly behind the girth, right? But it's pretty subtle. We don't see anything disturbing happening here. I was lucky enough to go to a Carl Hester masterclass a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing how much he talked about the seat with every single rider. And I think one of my favorite takeaways from the clinic is at the end of the Carl Hester masterclass, he said, that what he really loves about riding is he said, regardless of your body, so regardless of whether you're tall or short or skinny or a little round, you can sit balanced and connected in the saddle. So it's really figuring out about what works for your body, what works for your horse's body, and then how the two of you can come together into this beautiful partnership and this beautiful harmony. And I will say, even these top riders, so even Carl Hester, he works a lot on his rider position. It's not something that you just get to check off like, oh, now I have an independent seat. It's something that you're always working on refining as you move up the levels, as you develop, and as you become a more effective rider. And then also as your horse moves and develops and comes up through the levels, you're always refining this, which is so fun. I think we're lifelong learners as riders, and we're always working to improve and working to get better. The other thing, as we watch this amazing pair go around here, is that the more that you can sit connected and in harmony with your horse, It does two things, okay? It allows your horse to move with more expression, and it also makes it easier for your horse. If we're balanced, if we're supple, if we're sitting connected, it makes the job easier for our horses. So here's another one of my favorite riders. This is Ingrid Klimke. Ingrid is on this giant horse. This is Veyron. He's over 18 hands. Notice that she has no thigh blocks on this saddle. And again, she's sitting so still, so connected. Look at that huge extended trot. I don't know about you, but I often watch these riders and I'm like, gosh, they make it look so easy when we know that it is really, really hard. So, I just wanted to show you these two quick videos to get us inspired. Let me know in the chat if you are feeling like, okay, yes, I have a picture in my head. I'm not quite there yet, but it is really good to have this visual in your mind because the more that you can picture it, the more that it's in your mind, and then we can start to emulate that. Alrighty, let me go ahead and share my slides. Let me know in the chat if you are able to see my slides and get everything set up. Like I mentioned, we have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to be going through everything a little bit fast so I can make sure to get in all of my slides. If you have questions or if you're just joining us, open up the chat and say hello. My team is here. And thanks for being here on Black Friday. I know it's a busy season with family and friends and shopping, but us true diehards, we always want to learn and we always want to be thinking about our riding. So thank you for escaping. This webinar is for you if you're back into riding after a break, if you're new to dressage, if you've been riding your whole life and you know how important rider position is, if you lack confidence, if you struggle to sit deep and connected, if you want to ride like Carl Hester or Ingrid Klemke, if sometimes you get really frustrated and you feel like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to get it, but yet you dream of riding with connection and harmony. I love riding, I love horses. And so here's the truth, without an independent seat, you are scared. You're thinking of those what ifs. What if my horse bolts? What if my horse spins around? You're wondering, can I do this? When you finally feel your independent seat, it unlocks a whole new level of confidence, of connection, of harmony, of balance with your horse. And ultimately, your seat is what keeps you safe, right? When you have your seat, then you know that you can stay on your horse if something unexpected did happen, if they spook or if they spin around or if they shy. Kim says, can I do this? Is my question. Yes, you can do this. I'm really glad you're here, Kim. The agenda for today, what is an independent seat? Why you're confusing your horse, how to whisper to your horse. I'm going to talk a bit about my rider position blueprint course, and then we'll do a Q&A session. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Amelia Newcomb. I'm a Grand Prix rider, and my mission is dressage for all. Go ahead and open up the chat. Let me know what is one thing that you are grateful for this year in your riding with your horses. We've been celebrating a whole week of being grateful. I announced yesterday that we have a new youth fund grant, which is happening through the Dressage Foundation, and I'm really excited to be able to give back to our youth and to our community. So I'm grateful, of course, for my horses and my community and all of you for being here today. So here's one of our students, Nancy. Let me know if you can relate. I feel like the instructor is always yelling things and you don't have any time to think about it. Having the explanations and a framework behind everything has helped a lot. I have the time to think about it off the horse, and then when I get on the horse, I understand. So it's wonderful that you're here today where we can really sit and think and process. And I'm going to give you some action items that you can take and play around with to help you with your independent seat. But it is really helpful with online learning because it gives you that opportunity to think and process so that when you're in your lesson, hopefully you can understand what your trainer is telling you. I've helped over 10,000 students through my online training programs. And the reason that it works is because you're not multitasking. So when you are learning online or you're here today, you can really hone in and focus on the theory or new ideas and new concepts. And you don't have to worry about Is my horse gonna spook? What's happening next door? So, especially for riders that have limited time in the saddle, let me know in the chat how many times per week you're riding. Probably you wish that you were able to ride more. So, if you're not able to ride as much as you'd like, then this is a great way to maximize your time in the saddle. And I want you all to type in the chat, I am a rider. I know that if you've made it here on Friday morning after Thanksgiving, you're probably stuffed and exhausted that you are dedicated to your riding, you're dedicated to your horse. It's definitely an addiction. Once you start riding, it's just something that is such a part of your blood and that you think about and you dream about and you're super passionate about. And coming out of this webinar today, I really encourage you to take action this winter on developing your independent seat. I'm going to give you some things that you can do when you're not able to ride, some things to think about. And I think that's really important not to give up and not to just waste the winter. So by the end of today, you'll understand why your seat is the number one thing holding you back and how to develop your seat so that you can whisper to your horse. I want to get you ready for spring and summer of next year. And I love this quote from Tony Robbins. If you want to change your relationship, the first thing you need to change is yourself. That's a great life lesson, but it also really applies to our horses. So if we want our horses to become more relaxed and more supple and more forward, then we've got to change ourselves. So let's dive into the meat of this presentation. What is your seat? So your seat is the main connection with your horse. Anything from basically above your kneecaps to below your rib cage, so this orange circle here, that is your seat. And the center of your seat is your pelvis. So in the saddle here, this is a view from above, your two seat bones and your pubic bone. This triangle is your seat, and this is what follows the movement of your horse. So this triangle, your left seat bone, your right seat bone, and your pubic bone moves three-dimensionally in the walk, the trot, and the canter. That was what we saw Carl Hester and Ingrid Klemke doing so beautifully with their horse. The main purpose of your seat is to follow and connect to the movement of your horse. First and foremost, that's super important. You do not want to drive your horse forward with your seat. So shoving with your seat in the saddle is not going to get your horse to go more forward. You do not want to come out of the saddle or disconnect in moments of panic. I know all of us, when you feel your horse get tense or like they're going to spin around and you have that feeling like you just want to tip forward and pull on the reins. Not a good idea. Do not recommend. You also do not want to bounce in the saddle because anytime that you're bouncing in the saddle, that's going to be uncomfortable for your horse. Nor do you want to be sitting off to one side or feel like you're sitting stiff in the saddle because that's going to make it uncomfortable for your horse to carry your weight, which we don't want. So, if we look at the skeleton of the horse and you think about that, you sit up here on your horse's spine in an area where there's not a lot of support, right? So that's why it's really important that you're not bouncing and that you're sitting as connected and as fluid as possible so that it's more comfortable for your horse to carry your weight. So now that we know what your seat is, let's talk about what is an independent seat. So an independent seat means that your seat follows the movement without relying on the reins or gripping with the legs for support. Let me know in the chat if any of you are grippers, either on the reins or with your legs. I think we're all guilty perhaps of that at times. And then the second part of your independent seat is that you can use your reins and legs independently. And that's where it's really hard is that your seat, that triangle needs to be following the movement, the walk, the trot, the canter. But then you need to be able to give aids like asking your horse to canter or suppling with the rein without blocking in your seat. And that's where a lot of times we mess up, right? As we go to turn our horse, for example, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I've locked my seat. Or you go to ride a leg yield and all of a sudden you're blocking through your seat. Or, the other thing is that you really need to be able to use your left leg independent from your right leg. If we think about the canter transition, you need to be able to put your outside leg behind the girth without anything else changing. So, an independent seat really means that number one, you're following the movement of your horse, but number two, you need to be able to give signals with your legs and your reins and not disrupt the following movement of your horse. Sounds easy, right? So hopefully this is making sense. Give me a thumbs up if you are understanding what is an independent seat so far. Okay, Kim says yes. Awesome. So next, let's talk about how do you actually engage your seat or how do you engage your core in the saddle? Maybe you've heard your trainer say, use your seat, use your core, and you're thinking, okay, I have no idea what I should do. And let me give you a little hint. Your six pack is not what you want to engage when you hear that. Because if you think about your six pack, your six pack, if you engage your six pack, what does that do? It crunches you forward. Like those are the muscles you use if you're doing sit-ups or if you're doing crunches. Think back to the video of Carl Hester or Ingrid Klemke. We didn't see them doing any crunches because you don't really want to tip forward and fold yourself over in the saddle because that's going to put you in a precarious position. That's not a good position to be in, right? So, what core muscles should you use? What are your seat muscles? So, these are your seat muscles here on the side. Your main seat muscles are your obliques, your transverse abs, and then this muscle here on the side is your glute med. So your glute med is your glute muscle that's on the outside of your hip, and it actually connects through fascia into your obliques here on the side. So it really is these side stabilizing muscles that you want to think about engaging when you're in the saddle. So when you're sitting the trot or when you're feeling the canter motion, these side abdominal muscles allow your pelvis to still follow the movement of the horse, but they also give you that stability that you need because you don't want to be too loose and floppy in the saddle, but you also don't want to be totally tense. So, okay, I have a little exercise because that probably just like maybe went over your head and you're like, okay, obliques, transverse, glute med, like I have no idea, right? So, believe it or not, breathing is the best way to really feel and activate your transverse abs. So, what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand on your belly below your belly button. So, just put your palm on your belly. And then to breathe, you want to breathe in through your nose and let your belly puff out. So let your turkey dinner puff out there. So breathe in through your nose, let your belly poof out. And then you're going to breathe out through your mouth and you're going to go shh. So, like you're blowing out a candle. As you breathe out, you should feel a corset tightening around your middle. So, that is your transverse abs. So, you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth and try to breathe all the air out. And let me know, give me a thumbs up if you're able to feel your transverse abs. So, next, what I want you to do is as you're breathing like that, I want you to move your pelvis around. So, I want you to move your pelvis in a pelvic clock. So, as you're breathing, you're going to tip your pelvis forward and then to the side and then to the back and then to the other side. As you're moving your pelvis, as you're also breathing, so you're multitasking. And this is why breathing is super important to activate your core and also to allow your pelvis to move. So the next thing you can do, which is fun, hopefully you're still doing your pelvic clock, is I want you to try to hold your breath and do your pelvic clock. So hold your breath now and try to move your pelvis. And it's a lot harder, isn't it? So when you're not breathing, it locks everything up. And this is why breathing is so important. Breathing, not only when done correctly, it activates your core, but breathing also allows your pelvis to move with your horse. So, this is just a great little tip and takeaway. I want you all to really focus on your breathing next time you're riding, to feeling like your breathing is activating your transverse abs, but breathing also allows you to really move with your horse. And I can guarantee you that Ingrid Klimke and Carl Hester are breathing up there in the saddle. But this is just a little example of how something as simple as focusing on breathing can really help you with your seat. So here are some signs that you maybe don't have an independent seat. If you're bouncing in the saddle, if you're gripping on the reins, if you're collapsing to one side or the other, if you're losing in transitions, if you feel like you get left behind, or if you feel insecure. I think those are all things that probably at some point or another you feel in your ride. Now, let me ask you this. Can you have an independent seat in a jumping or in a Western saddle? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Is it possible to have an independent seat in a different saddle type? Maybe some of you ride in a Western saddle or ride in a jumping saddle. Okay, I see everyone saying yes, absolutely. So yeah, I think regardless of your discipline, working on your seat is really important. Now, here's the really cool thing about your seat is many riders, I know some of you here probably feel like your hands are unsteady. Like you see a video and you're like, "Oh my gosh, why are my hands moving all over the place?" Or maybe your legs move all over the place. I'm going to tell you that the secret to this is that if your hands are unsteady or if your legs are swinging, the root cause is that your seat isn't connected. So when your seat isn't connected, everything ricochets up and it gets exacerbated into your hands and into your legs. So, believe it or not, your hand and leg problems are actually a symptom of your lack of an independent seat. And when you really focus first on your alignment in your seat, then your leg and hand problems will go away. And often we get so obsessed with our hands that we forget the importance of our seat. Okay, so far we've covered what is an independent seat. Next, we're going to move on to why you are confusing your horse. Hopefully, this is making sense so far. I wanted to tell you a little story about my horse, Trumpet. And Trumpet was a half thoroughbred. He was the most difficult horse I have ever had. He was stiff, he was tense, he loved to hang on the left rein, he was not engaged, he liked to try to buck me off often, which was not very much fun. So let me know in the chat, what is something that you're currently just like, oh, really frustrated, really struggling with? Maybe your horse is tense or spooky or hollow or stiff or downhill. There's all these things that, we're always struggling with. Kim says her horse stops and won't move, is tense. Okay. And we all go through this thought process of, oh, maybe if I just get a new horse, right? Or maybe if I get a new bit or a new saddle, maybe that would fix my problem. So when I was really struggling with Trumpet, I was really frustrated with him, and I took him down to a lesson with Stefan Peters. And Stefan Peters was like, okay, come get off. And Stefan got on Trumpet and rode him around for like 10, 15 minutes. And when I got back on Trumpet, he felt like a completely different horse. Stefan had transformed him from being stiff and tense and feeling like he wanted to buck me off. And all of a sudden, he was loose and he was moving through his back and he wasn't hanging on the reins and he was light. And in that moment, I was like, okay, my horse isn't the problem. I am the problem. So I need to change, right? I need to figure out how to ride more like Stefan. Stefan's an amazing rider, an Olympian with an independent seat. How can I work on myself? How can I work on improving my seat, on improving my aids so that I can ride with that clarity and confidence? Here's one of our students, Kristen. She says, I always felt like I could ride better if only the horse could be softer and more balanced, right? And that is where it's really hard. Like, gosh, if my horse could just be better, then I could be better. But then your horse is probably thinking, I would be better if you could maybe be a little bit better. And so it really does start with us. When we are able to improve our seat, suddenly all these problems that we think are our horse's problems, like our horse is stiff, our horse is lazy, our horse is tense, our horse is crooked, all of those problems start to get better because we get better, because we are focusing on our own rider position. And believe me, I know how hard it is. I know I put that little, you can do hard things, right? It is so hard to ride. I mean, let's face it. But when you are able to really hone in and focus on your position, it makes such a difference for your horse. So I wanted to just go through and give you some examples of this. This is Celia, and I taught her in a symposium in Idaho last year. And the first day of the symposium, her and her horse were pretty nervous, right? And what do we notice here about her? She's a little bit tipping forward. We can see her arms are quite stiff and straight. And because of that, her horse is a bit nervous. So the first thing that we worked on is with Celia, I was like, okay, take a few deep breaths, right? Because we just felt how much breathing helps us relax. Shoulders back, bend your elbows, push your heels down, soften the inside rein. And as she sat more connected through her seat and as she softened her body, then it was really cool to see the difference, to see how her horse started to soften. So let me know if you're starting to make sense, if you're like, okay, I see how maybe the way I'm riding could be causing some of these issues with our horse. A lot of us tend to rely too much on our hands, on our reins. The problems with overusing your reins is that it tips you forward. It makes your horse tense. If you're always holding them back, they want to go more and more. It makes them nervous. When you rely on the reins, it pulls your butt out of the saddle, so you're not sitting connected. And ultimately, holding onto the reins makes it more likely that you're going to fall off. So remember, if you're taking notes, your hands are not the problem or the solution, right? Your seat, you really need to think about your seat is probably the problem, that your seat isn't connected enough. That's why you're relying on your hands. And then anytime you want to use your reins, I want you to really think about your seat instead. So that's my challenge for you. Rather than using your reins, can you think about your seat instead? Okay, I see a lot of you saying, yes, this is making sense. Good. Um, Anytime that I'm on a horse and I feel like the horse is heavy or strong, or I catch myself, oh my gosh, I'm using my reins too much. Think about your seat first. So take a nice deep breath, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Feel your seat bones, those two, that triangle, right? Your two seat bones and your pubic bone. Glue that into the saddle. Sit connected and then use your hands. Because only when your seat is connected, only then can your reins be effective. If you're leaning forward and pulling, then you're just using your little biceps and there's no way that you're going to be able to be stronger than your horse. But if you're sitting connected through your seat, then you can be effective with your reins and your horse can become more relaxed. So here's another example. Do we have any jumper riders here in the audience? Any ex-jumper riders? This is Kiri and her horse, and they were new to dressage. So first thing is like you get your dressage saddle, you lengthen your stirrups, and then you feel completely out of balance. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is not a good thing. And that's kind of what happened to Kiri here. She made her stirrups a lot longer, but she was still tipping forward and she was really struggling to find her seat. So the first thing that I worked with Kiri on was really getting her alignment correct, ear, shoulder, hip, heel, bringing her leg a little bit more back underneath of her so that she could feel that connection with her seat. I didn't start with her getting her horse round, right? Because once she found her seat, then her horse started to round and soften on his own. And I think that's always really important is anytime that you're struggling, check in with yourself first. Check your position, check your alignment, get your seat connected, then check in with your horse. Here's another example. Who here sits crooked? Check in with yourself right now. In fact, are you sitting crooked or are you sitting even on both your seat bones? I see some of you straightening up there in your chairs. So here's a student I worked with, Kristen, and she had no idea how crooked she was, which is often the case because we all think that we're straight until we see it in a mirror. But you can see here, she's way off to the left. Her right stirrup is quite a bit shorter. And this was causing some problems. Like she couldn't get her horse to turn to the right. Her horse was super stiff to the right. And so rather than just trying to fix the horse, I honed in on Caitlin, got her straight, got her saddle straight, got her sitting more evenly. And then we were able to make it easier for her horse. And she was able to turn her horse to the right and get her horse to bend to the right. And one thing that I will tell you is if you're crooked, it's really important that you do exercises out of the saddle to help you strengthen that weaker side, to help you become more aware of your asymmetries. Like even just now, you were like, okay, I need to sit a little straighter in my chair. Because if you're always sitting crooked or off to the side or sleeping funky, all of those body patterns that you do the other 23 hours of a day, they are going to affect you in the saddle. And do me a favor, can we all agree to commit to our fitness routine over the holidays? Who here is like, yes, I'm motivated. I know we just had Thanksgiving, but it's so important that you find a way to stay consistent, even if it's just 10, 20 minutes, move your body. It makes you feel so much better. It makes you ride better. Your horse thanks you. So let's all make that commitment. And there is a reason that all the top riders have incredible seats. We saw that with Carl Hester and Ingrid Klemke. Let's emulate that, right? Let's work on developing a seat and a rider position like those top riders have. And we may never ride like Ingrid or Carl Hester, but we can make little improvements in our position that will have an instant effect on our horses. This is one of our students, Claudia, and she did my rider position course. And you can see at the beginning, she's kind of tipped forward. Her horse is hollow. She's perched off of her seat. And she worked really hard on like sit back, bend your elbows, get your heels down. It made such a big difference for her and for her horse. So that is to say, yeah, we're nowhere near riding like Carl or Ingrid, but these little stair steps, these little bits of improvement make such a big difference. One of my students, Kathy, asked, she's in her 70s, are you able to ride without worrying about getting hurt? Let's face it, that's a big concern for a lot of us. We don't want to fall off. We don't want to get hurt. And working on your position, working on your seat is a fundamental part of that because if you're in balance and if you're connected, you're way less likely to fall off of your horse. We have students, this is Barb Strona. Barb is in her 80s. She's in her mid 80s. And she has been with us for several years now. And she's made such progress in her riding and in her position. And it's just been really cool to see. That's what I love about this sport is that even as you're older, you can still improve. You can still work so hard and you can still make such progress in your position. So just a little word of encouragement for those of you. And ultimately, as you develop your seat, that's what enables you to ride with harmony and balance and connection and confidence. And it makes your horse happier to carry you around. I think we all want that for our horses. We want to be a good passenger for our horses. Okay, so far we've covered what's an independent seat, why you're confusing your horse, and next let's go into how to whisper to your horse. I think that I don't know if any of you have ever felt that, but when you feel like you just think it and your horse does it, when you're able to communicate with just your calf and your ring finger, it's the most amazing feeling. So this is me and my Grand Prix horse, Harvey. We are doing the Grand Prix here. And Harvey was the first horse that I really felt like I could truly whisper to. He was so sensitive and he was so light that I could just think it. I could just give like a little squeeze and he would instantly respond. And it was so cool. It was like the most amazing thing ever. And maybe you've had a little glimmer of that, like 30 seconds of it, and then it kind of goes away. But that's the goal, that's the dream. So let's dive into how do you get that? Like, how do you get to the place where you can actually whisper? Because Amelia, I'm nowhere near being able to whisper. I kind of feel like I'm shouting all the time. So the secret here is what I call the circle of the aids. And so communication with your horse, it always starts with your leg. So number one is you put your leg on because we need to have the forward energy before we can do anything else. Then, see, the second part of that is your seat. So it's super important that when you put your leg on and your horse starts to walk or trot, that your seat is in perfect connection with that movement. Then, once you have the movement, then your reins are there to help rebalance or to guide the energy. And this circle builds and creates more and more energy and connection and balance. And that's where it gets really fun at the Grand Prix when you're able to do the piaffe and the passage. It's just like the coolest thing ever. But a lot of things can go wrong in this circle of aids, right? So let me know in the chat where you feel like maybe you have a big X in your circle of aids. So if you're gripping with your legs, right, that's going to cause your leg to be ineffective. If you are blocking in your seat, or if you're tipping forward, or if your seat is stiff, that's going to block the movement that your legs have just created. And then also if you're balancing too much on the reins, those are all examples of where we might be blocking this flow of energy. So, bottom line is that when you don't have an independent seat, when you don't have that nice circle going, you might feel exhausted at the end of your ride. So, you should not feel more tired than your horse at the end of the ride. And I definitely remember being there. This is my horse, Geronimo. And when I first started riding Geronimo, I was pretty green rider. And I remember just when I started doing dressage, I remember feeling like I was just kicking and pulling and it wasn't working and we were just fighting and there was so much pressure and in my gut I knew that it wasn't right, but I didn't really understand that the reason I was having to kick and pull was because I didn't understand the circle of the aids because I didn't have an independent seat. But with an independent seat, look how cool this picture is. Geronimo is in a Bozell, no bridle. He's super soft, he's super forward, and that's the joy of it, right? When you start to feel that. Okay, so how do we get this? Step one is that you want to start in neutral. So, what is neutral? Neutral is where your heels are down, your hands are together and in front, and your seat is following the movement. So, neutral is where you're not really cueing your horse. You're not telling your horse to do anything. And you need to spend more time in neutral. I'll tell you that because I think as riders, we're always overdoing it. We're like leg and hand and do this and do that. And sometimes you just need to be quiet and follow the movement of your horse. So if you're taking notes, write that down, more time in neutral. Then, first thing is you're going to put your leg on to get that forward energy, right? What's important though is that you're in the correct position to start with. So, let me know in the chat, what is your leg position? I find myself sometimes nagging, right? We get our heels up, we have our legs on our horse all the time. And then if your leg is always on your horse, like in picture number A, then you can't really be effective to create more energy. So if you're having trouble getting your horse going forward, you want to avoid nagging. You want to avoid having your leg on your horse all the time. And this is one of my students, Nisa. Her horse was stiff, wouldn't go forward. And the first thing I did was I lengthened her stirrups a hole. I got her legs longer, her legs breathing on the horse's side so that she could actually use her leg effectively to signal the horse to go forward. When you use your legs, you always want to start with the smallest aid possible. So let me know in the chat which of these circles is the whisper. If you're going to whisper with your leg, if you're going to ask your horse nicely to go forward, which of these circles are you going to use? Okay, I see everyone saying blue, calf, good for you. So always start with your calf. You do not want to start with your spur or your heel. That's more of shouting to your horse. And it takes diligence and consistency to always start with that calf first. Then make sure when you use your leg to get your horse to go forward, do not block your horse with your seat or your hands. And I see this happen a lot. We use our leg, we get our horse going forward, and then accidentally we tip forward and we pull on the reins. And so that's an example of where you're blocking this nice circle of energy. So it's super important that you are really aware of this circle of aids and that you remember your seat, right? Your independent seat really is what allows you to whisper. It's what allows these aids to come through your horse. So I want to talk just a little bit about your hands. You may have noticed we've been going now for 45 minutes and we've barely talked about your hands. The reason is because your leg and your seat is really the most important part of your rider position. For your hands, I really want you to think about your hands together and in front of the saddle, doing as little as possible with your hands. And anytime you do need to use your hands, you want to start with your fingers, your wrist, and then the last thing is your elbows. And I put elbows in red there because if you're pulling back, if you're using your elbows, then you're blocking that forward energy, right? That's going to be a signal to stop your horse. So ideally, fingers and wrist, and I can't tell you how many riders I see brace way too much with their hands. Anyone here is like, yes, I brace with my hands. But I was teaching a clinic and I saw this rider and like her arms were so stiff. And so I went and oh, this is an even better story. So I was teaching this rider and I could see her hands were so stiff. And I went up and I like put my arm on her forearm and I could just feel like there was all this tension and resistance in her arms. And I was like, no, 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 that like your hands need to be way softer than that. Because if you're bracing on the reins, your horse is going to be bracing in their neck. Like they're going to be bracing against you. And so with that rider, I actually walked around next to her and I held onto the horse's inside rein and I helped her to soften the horse and get the horse round and light. And then she was like, "Oh my gosh, but the horse is so light, like there's nothing in my hand." And I was like, "Yes, that is the point, okay? You should not be pulling on your horse. You should not feel like you're just bracing against your horse's hand. We want our horses to be soft. We want our horses to be light." And that was a big revelation for her. Remember that we have a piece of metal across our horse's tongue. Like I can't even imagine if someone was pulling on a piece of metal in my mouth. Not very comfortable, right? So that's why we want to do as little as possible with our hands, and we always want to start with just vibrating our ring finger. Okay, so back to our concept of whispering, right? Um, there are times where you whisper, right? Your calf and your fingers and your calf and your fingers, and nothing's happening. And in those moments, you do need to shout, right? You do need to be effective and you need to get the result and get your horse to go forward and get your horse to turn because that's kind of a safety thing. We need to be in charge of our horses. But remember that if you shout, it compromises your seat. So if you have to kick your horse really hard, it always a little bit tightens your seat or it makes you disconnect. If you have to really use the reins, often it takes you a little bit off of your seat. So that's okay. Just make sure that after you shout, that you come back and you check in again. You got to come back and check in with your alignment and get your seat connected, reestablish your seat so that you can be effective again. And I just want to point that out because it is really important. I mean, I realize you're not all riding perfectly trained horses. None of us are. And sometimes you do need to make a stronger aid, and that's fine. But then just quickly check in with your rider position again. And sometimes we forget to reset and check in with our seat. And then it just cascades into our horse getting worse and us getting worse. And it's just not a good road to go down. So remember that if you don't consider your independent seat, then you really cannot be effective with your aids. Your horse is a mirror of what you're doing. So if you're flopping around, tipping forward, holding your breath, gripping, your horse is going to be stiff, hollow, crooked, spooky, all of those things. But the cool thing is that I hope that you've seen today and you have some new takeaways. Focusing on your seat, you and your horse will instantly feel more confidence. Give me a thumbs up if you're like, yes, okay, I've got it. I'm taking responsibility. I'm gonna really work on my seat and my position because ultimately that's the way to helping your horse and to getting your horse to feel a little more confident and to developing that harmony and that balance that we like. So here's a student, Sydney, and Sydney got this new 4-year-old young horse. And she really wanted to do right by this new young horse, especially with a young horse. They don't really have a lot of balance. They don't have a lot of training. And that's where it's so important that you're there, that you have your seat, that you have your position so that you can give your horse that confidence. And as Sydney sat back deeper into the saddle, bent her elbows, she felt her horse become softer and more forward. So, just a little encouragement. If Cindy can learn to do it on her 4-year-old, you can too. Now, there's also different phases of your independent seat. And I'd like you all to type in the chat and let me know which phase are you in. So phase one is where you're just trying to find balance and security, where you're just like, okay, I'm trying to get my butt in the saddle and not fall off. Phase two is where you start to work on those independent aids. So I want to be able to ask my horse to canter or leg yield or half pass and not block anywhere. Phase three is where you actually start to influence your seat with your horse. I didn't really talk a lot about that, but I think we saw that with Carl and Ingrid, how they were actually able to communicate a little bit through their seat. Like, certainly they still use their legs and their hands, but they actually were able to influence their horse a little bit through their seat. Oh, good. I see some of you are on phase two and three, 2.5. I love it. Trying to get to three. Yeah. And so that is, like I said, the first thing is that you really just need to get your seat following the movement of your horse. And then once you have that, where your seat can follow the movement of your horse, then you can start to signal things like a little half halt with your seat or weighting one seat bone or the other. And that's where we start to get a little bit more sophisticated about how to use your seat, which is something that I covered a lot today. I haven't quite dove into yet, but so far we've covered what is an independent seat, why you're confusing your horse, how to whisper to your horse. And let me know in the chat, are you feeling inspired and excited to develop your independent seat this winter so that you can communicate with your horse, feel connected, have fun, and try new things? Okay, I see. Good. That's always my goal with these webinars. Educate you and get you inspired. And I know that if you stay consistent, you can do this. You can develop an independent seat. Stair step by stair step so you can communicate with your horse. I know that this was a lot of information and you might be wanting more. You might be wishing I was there to hold your hand and show you specifically step by step how to improve your seat. So if it's okay, I'd like to take a few moments here to talk about a special offer that I have about my program where I really go step by step into rider position. So let me know in the chat if you would like to learn a little bit more about that. Okay, I see some yeses there in the chat. So I developed my rider position blueprint course earlier this year. And this is a program that's really about a personalized approach to developing your seat. Because let's face it, we're all different. We all have different issues in our body. And so the way the program works is that you learn at home, you strengthen your seat muscles out of the saddle, you practice in the saddle, and this allows you to ride with clarity and connection. This program is a very unique blend of both riding exercises and also rider fitness, exercises that are targeted for riders that you can do out of the saddle to help you develop your independent seat on those days that you can't get to the barn and you can't ride. This course is for you if you're a novice, if you're advanced, if you're Western jumper, if you only ride once or twice a week, if you ride every single day. But basically, regardless of your discipline or your goals, rider position is the foundation of success. So I want to go through and explain step by step how this works. The first part of this course is the rider position framework. And this is the framework here, alignment, seat, leg, hand, where we go through every single little detail of your rider position. So we talked a lot today about your seat, but it's also important that your stirrups are the right length, your stirrups are positioned correctly, your legs are doing the right thing, your hands are doing the right things. Like every single bone in your body needs to be in the right place. So there's over 45 step-by-step exercises, live lectures, 400 minutes of content in this section. And basically breaking it down into each part of your rider position. So there's a section on alignment, on your seat, on your legs, and your hands. So regardless of what you feel like you're struggling with, there's a video there to help you. And one thing that's really important is, yeah, there's all that content, but how do you simplify it? And how do you focus on the most important thing? Because I think often we get overwhelmed and we're like, oh my gosh, there's just so much wrong. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to fix first. And so with this course, we help you to understand what is the most important thing to start with to fix in your rider position. This is my student Claudia, and she worked with us on her rider position. She says, I never realized how much I was hindering her performance. And with the course, she feels like I wasn't wasting time anymore with my horse because she was really able to identify the issues in her position and then focus on that position so that she could make improvement with her horse, with her 22-year-old Pinto mare, which I just think is so cool to help riders like Claudia. Second part of the course is analyzing your rider position. And so here's the thing is every rider has different issues. Like some of us sit to the left, some of us sit to the right, some of us lean forward, some of us lean back. And the issue is that you maybe don't know. Like you maybe don't know where to start or what's wrong with your rider position. This is one of my students, Laura, and she was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I was so crooked. So we're going to help you to understand what is going on in your position specifically, where to start, and then exactly how to fix that. And then once you're in the correct position, we dive into the effective aids playbook. So once you're in the correct position, this is where it gets really fun. And I go into exactly how to use your legs, exactly how to use your hands, because there's a lot of different techniques. Like sometimes you want to press, sometimes you want to bump, bump, sometimes you need to use just left leg, sometimes just right leg. And so really diving into all those nitty-gritty details of how to use your aids and how to be that effective rider so that you can ultimately whisper to your horse, which is what we saw when we saw Carl Hester, right? How does he do that? How does he do all those half passes and one tempi changes and it just looks like he's not doing anything? Okay, so here's what we have so far. The rider position framework, the position analysis, the effective aids playbook, total value $4,991. I'm not going to charge you that much. I have a really good deal for you today, but if I think about all of the time and money that I spent on lessons and trying to figure all this stuff out or what it would cost you to go and take all these lessons, it would definitely be worth that amount. But what else do you need to be successful? Well, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of my riders don't have lessons and they have no idea where to start. Like they're like, well, I would really like to have a lesson. That would be super helpful, right? So this course also includes one-on-one feedback, which is really cool. So in Rider Position Blueprint, you actually send us in videos of your riding. So you record a little video, send us in, then we're able to show and see like, okay, now we can see what you need to focus on in your rider position. We give you homework, both exercises that you can do in the saddle, and then also the fitness exercises for you to practice off of your horse. You work on that for a few weeks. You send us video in again, and we've seen it with hundreds of riders. This is like one of the best ways to learn and really improve in your riding. If you think about the way that a lesson works, it's not the most efficient thing, right? Like you're riding around, your trainer sees, oh, you're tipping forward. We try to communicate that to you. You may or may not understand. You try to fix that, but it's not the most effective thing. But with these video reviews, when you can actually see it, so when you can see yourself tipping forward or sitting crooked, and then when you're able to have exercises to work on out of the saddle to fix that, it's so cool. It works so well. It's so cool. Here's Jen. She just started riding dressage a year ago. She says, I sent in my videos every single week. I got so much out of you watching and explaining. I learned more in a few months than in years of trying to learn on my own. Every day my horse got better, which is so cool. I love helping riders like Jen, and I love just helping with these breakthroughs, right? Because if you feel like, gosh, you've been stuck and you've just been trying the same thing and it's not working, then that's when you need to try something different. And maybe this could be that breakthrough that would help you to get to that next level with your horse. So, rider position blueprint includes 5 virtual lessons within a calendar year. So you have an entire year to send in your videos. And don't worry about tech. We have an incredible support team. We've even helped our 80-year-old students to send in their videos. So we're totally here to help you out. So here's everything we have so far: the rider position framework, the position analysis, the effective aids playbook, the coaching program. This is not just a do-it-yourself course. We're really here to hold your hand and help you through the program. Total value $6,988. Again, that's the value, that's not the price of the course. So, question: how many hours per week do you spend in the saddle? Let me know in the chat how many hours per week you spend in the saddle. I don't know about you. Okay, 2 hours per week, 3 hours per week. I think we would all agree that we'd like more time in the saddle, right? This is Cindy. She says, riding is the best part of my day at 69 years old. And my husband told her, you would get better if you could ride 10 horses per day, but you cannot ride your one horse 10 times per day. So, what else can we do to maximize our time in the saddle? Um, Fitness. And I know none of us love working out, but I'm going to tell you that with these simple and targeted fitness exercises that are designed specifically for riders, I designed all the fitness exercises in this course. It's what I do to strengthen my seat, to strengthen my riding muscles. This is the best way to maximize the time that you have in the saddle so that when you get on, you're in control of your body, you feel strong, you're balanced, your leg moves when you tell it to move, your hand moves when you tell it to move. It makes such a huge difference in your riding. So this is Nicole from my team. She was down here last winter, and I noticed she was doing like this weird twisty thing in her body. She was like collapsing on the left side, and she had no idea. Thought she was straight, right? We all think we're straight. So I was like, okay, I showed her this picture. I was like, Nicole, go do some side planks, because side planks really help to activate your obliques on the side, which is going to get you straighter in the saddle. And specifically, she needed to do the side plank on the left side because that's where she's collapsing. And it was so cute because she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so weak on that side. I had no idea. But what was really cool is that she was consistent about strengthening that side of her body. And then she started sitting straighter in the saddle. But you can't expect to sit straighter in the saddle if you're not doing things out of the saddle to strengthen those muscles. Like, I don't care how good you are, it's just not possible. And I don't know of anyone who loves working out, but I do know a lot of people who love their horses and will do anything to be a better rider. That's my motivation for fitness, is like, I want to ride better. And the truth is that you don't need to spend hours at the gym, but you do need simple and targeted exercises that specifically help you with your rider position. There's this riding simulation where I show how you can actually simulate holding the reins, doing your squats, engaging your core. It makes such a huge difference in your rider position. I know some of you have already taken the rider position blueprint, which is awesome. This is our student, Stacy. She says, I've already told people to sign up for the next round. It is so worth it. Since starting the program, my horse's canter and trot lengthenings have improved, and we've bumped up a level in competition, which is awesome. Okay, so the last part of this course is that I know we're all busy. This course should save you time. Okay, so there's a mobile app, there's a podcast so you can listen on the go. You have lifetime access to all the content. So even if you're like, oh my gosh, it's the holidays, like, I don't know, do I have the time? Yes, you do have the time. There's worksheets, there's workbooks, really all the tools that you need. And ultimately, it should save you that struggle and that help you to maximize your time in the saddle. The course also includes 10 expert interviews. So we have an interview with Ingrid Klimke. We have an interview with a physical therapist. We have an interview with Stefan Peters. We've also added an interview with Mary Wanless, who's a biomechanics expert. So there's a lot of expert interviews inside the course. And there's this really cool cheat sheet that shows you, based on what you're struggling with in your rider position, which of the fitness exercises to focus on. So that's been a big favorite for our students as well. So here's everything in the course. We have the rider position framework, the position analysis, the effective aids playbook, the coaching program, the fitness blueprint, all the fitness exercises, and the learning toolkit. Total value, $10,482. Again, I'm not going to charge you that, but if you were to go out and hire a physical therapist and a trainer and try to learn all of this stuff over the next year, it would definitely be at least that amount. I have no idea how much I've spent on lessons. I don't even want to know. So let me ask you, if all the rider position blueprint did was to give you and your horse confidence, would it be worth it? What would it be worth to feel confidence to do whatever it is you want to do in the year ahead? If all the rider position blueprint did was to teach your horse how to respond to a whisper, would it be worth it? Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to feel like you were kicking and pulling? If all the rider position blueprint did was to motivate you to prioritize yourself, your health, and fitness this winter, would it be worth it? Just like say, I am important, my fitness is important, and I'm not going to just wait until spring. Like, let's not waste the winter. That's one thing I'm really going to try to do this winter is now's the time, nothing like today. So what would it be worth to feel like this? My horse has turned a corner. I feel motivated to learn and make progress. I feel confident to canter my horse. I believe in in myself and that my horse can do it. Okay, so the regular price of this course with everything included is $997. But since it's Black Friday, we do, of course, have a special deal. And we are giving 50% off the regular price. So you can get everything, the rider position framework, the position analysis, the effective aids playbook, the coaching program, the fitness blueprint, the learning toolkit, all of that for just $499. There's also a payment plan if you prefer to do that, where you can get started for $145 plus 3 additional payments. If you're in Stride, you also get an additional $50 off. And this special deal ends on the 3rd. So you have a few days to sign up. If you're interested, please head over to amelianewcomb-dressage.com/rider position blueprint. I will have my team put that in the chat for you. Cindy says, sign me up. Awesome. I'm looking forward to working with you, Cindy. For those of you who sign up today during the webinar, we will also be sending you one of my top 10 training exercises book, as well as a 2026 calendar, which will be fun to keep you on track for the year ahead. And that is if you sign up during the webinar today. Also included is my 30-day to sitting trot, which if you're struggling with sitting trot, this program really takes you step by step through that process of developing your sitting trot, because I know that's a big hurdle for a lot of us is learning how to sit the trot. And bottom line is this, like we talked about today, if you don't change, your horse won't change. And I know that that's harsh, but that's the reality. I see it over and over again, as you become better, your horse becomes better. And it's a process and that's okay. And it takes time and it's that journey. But it is so cool how I know when you start to get a little fitter and stronger and more symmetrical, your horse instantly changes. That's the cool part is there's no delay there. Your horse will instantly become more forward and more softer and rounder and all those cool things. So do this for your horse. Happy horse, happy life. Uh, I've had a lot of different types of riders go through the rider position blueprint, everything from beginner riders to FEI riders to Western riders to eventers to trail riders. So your position and your seat, it's the foundation of everything, regardless of if you're like Kathy and you like to just trail ride, or if you're like Carol in a Western saddle, or Hannah winning blue ribbons with her horse. Hannah's always such an inspiration to everyone. The other good thing about Rider Position Blueprint is that there's a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you're on the fence, I would say just give it a try. See if it's for you, poke around inside the course, and if it's not for you, no problem, we'll give you your money back. I always want these programs to work for you and for your horse. And I know that it can be scary if you've never taken an online program before and you have no idea what to expect. So I always put that in there just to help you out and help you to make that decision if you're a little bit on the fence. And here's the thing, if your trainer keeps telling you the same thing and it's just not working, we've all been there where you're like, gosh, how long have I been told that I'm sitting crooked? Or how long have I been told to sit back and I just can't? Like for whatever reason, it's just not working. And if that's you, then it might be time to try something different because the way that this online program works is it's very visual. So if you're more of a visual learner, then the rider position blueprint can really help you out to see what you're doing wrong and what it should look like. And then also with the fitness exercises, I'll tell you another story. So I broke my collarbone, and then after that injury, I was so crooked. Like I always had my left shoulder forward and I was hanging on the left rein, and my trainer kept telling me like, bring your left shoulder down and back. And I just couldn't do it. And then I had a physical therapist come and she watched me ride, Stephanie. She watched me ride and then she had me get off and she did all these exercises with me off of the horse. And then once I was able to stretch and strengthen my shoulder off of the horse, I could fix it in the saddle. But sometimes if you're struggling with something in your position in the saddle, you need to figure out how to work on that off of your horse so that when you're on your horse, you can be communicating with your horse because you need to be telling your horse instructions like go forward, put your head down, bend. You can't just be sitting up there thinking about your broken left shoulder like I was, right? So it's a very different way of working on rider position, but like I said, it's been very successful. We've had some wonderful transformations in our students, and that's what I'm really passionate about is helping you get to that next level. So two choices. One is keep doing what you're doing, and I hope you got a lot of great takeaways from today. Give me a thumbs up if you're like, yes, I'm definitely going to be focusing on my breathing and my following seat. But if you want a little more help, if you're like, okay, I need some more step by step, I need a little more hand holding, I want to know all those details. And then also if you need more personalization to help you understand where you're off in your position and then specifically what exercises to help with that, then the rider position blueprint is a great option for you. And like I said, there's lifetime access. You have up to a year to do the video reviews. So if maybe you're not riding right now, or you're not able to ride so much in the winter, I would say focus on the fitness stuff right now. And then once spring comes, then you can start sending in your videos. Or you can also send in old videos as well. So if we do a little math, rider position blueprint is $4.99. Basically, you have a year to send in your videos. So that's about $10 per week. And remember that you get all of the riding exercises, the lectures, the fitness training, the mini riding lessons. You can always come and watch the other students as well during the coaching calls, which is fun. There's workbooks, journals, assessments. There's access to riding instructors, physical therapy, yoga, so everything. So if you're interested, please go to amelianewcomb-dressage.com/rider position blueprint. And remember that rider position is the foundation of reaching your dreams. It opens so many doors. So whether you want to go on the trail and feel safe, or jump your horse, or ride dressage, your position really is the foundation to all of that. And if you're not able to ride consistently this winter, you can be consistent with your learning and with the workouts. And sometimes a little time off isn't a bad thing, so long as you really continue to learn and you continue to work on your body and your fitness and your strength and your stamina. That way, you're going to be super ready when spring comes and you're really able to do all those things you want to do next year, whether that's showing your horse next summer or any of that. Here's one of my students, Brenda, and she was suffering from low self-confidence. She was honestly thinking about giving up. And she said, I'll try not to get too emotional, but I'm so thankful for you. Thank you for all of those little things in your programs that most people wouldn't even put in there. It's giving me so much confidence. I haven't ridden every day for years, and now I'm riding every single day. And that makes my heart happy. But it really is. Sometimes we need that hand holding and that motivation and that step by step of exactly what to do with every part of your body. And it gives you the confidence and it gives you the motivation. So if you're on the fence, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. But here's what I would recommend. Like I said, there's that 30-day money back guarantee. So give it a try, sign up, watch a lecture or two, pick a fitness exercise to try out. There's a lot of great ones in there, which will get you motivated for today. And then if you feel like it's not for you, or if you try riding and you're like, okay, that was not helpful at all, then just send us an email and we're happy to give you a refund. We always have that 30-day money back guarantee. That way you can try it out and just see if it works for you. Um, Here's another one of our students just giving us some love. I always just love seeing the progress of everyone. So remember that the price of the course will increase on the 3rd. So this is just a special Black Friday deal if you're interested in signing up. If you're in Strides, you also get an additional $50 off. So check your email. Also, all of this information should be in your email account. And if you sign up today, we will be sending you a exercise book and also a calendar. And then as promised, we do have the ride along podcast for you. So I'll have my team put that in the chat. I'll definitely, with this ride along podcast, what you can do is you can download it to your phone and it focuses on rider position. So listen to it during your next ride, and I will help you out with some tips and tricks just to remind you to focus on your rider position during your next ride. So that is it. I think we have time for a few minutes of questions, but once again, amelianewcomb-dressage.com/rider position blueprint if you're interested. And if not, thank you so much for being here. This has been really fun. And I can tell who all the diehards are who are out here on day after Thanksgiving, already ready to jump back into the saddle and into the learning. So, do we have any questions, Nicole?
Yes, we have lots of questions. Some of them I can answer. So we've got a lot of Strides students here who are saying, "Where is there a Strides discount? What's the Strides discount code?" There is a Strides discount. Check your email for it. I can't say it here because then I'm sure everyone would love to use the Strides discount code. So if you can't see it in your email, just email us support. We'll send it to you. We'll make sure you get the bonuses, all of that jazz. Then we have some students asking, how is this different than Strides? They've been in Strides, and I would love it if you would share my Thanksgiving analogy for the difference between rider position and strides. Do you remember that analogy? I love this
I
analogy.
think you should share that one. I'm not going to steal it from
So, this is so timely. Amelia always laughs at me because my analogies always involve food.
you.
Strides is like learning how to cook a really good Thanksgiving dinner. Each month we focus on a different topic. Maybe we'll do, how different ways to cook Brussels sprouts, or maybe how to make your mashed potatoes better. And you'll do a little bit of everything. You can pick and choose. You can dive in some months. If you don't like yams, you can skip it. Rider position is about learning how to make that amazing turkey, right? So we do a little bit of turkey prep in strides, but rider position is where we really focus on it and we really dive in. You're always going to have a turkey on Thanksgiving dinner, right? But it's really where you can dive in. If you just focus on making an amazing turkey, your amazing rider position, you're going to have an amazing meal, regardless of what the sides are. So that's how it's different. Strides is about learning a little bit of everything and dabbling in and be able to pick and choose. Rider Position Blueprint is about making that amazing, amazing turkey. So that's my analogy on the difference. Um, so there's that. And then we have a few questions, Amelia, because I think you misspoke at some point in the, yes, it's okay. Video reviews. It's not that they have to the end of the calendar year. They have 365 days from the enrollment period to get their videos reviewed. So you don't have to panic
Okay,
and get all
sorry.
your videos in by the
No,
end of December.
everyone's panicking. Sorry. One
No,
year for video.
1 year. So what that means is you can get all get into the course, learn what your, you know, mishaps are, work on your stuff in the gym all winter, and then in the
Yeah,
spring, you can start riding, take your videos, send them in throughout the spring and summer and
yeah,
fall. So
yeah.
you got tons of time on that.
Yeah, but I would
Um,
recommend what I'd recommend is like get your first video in as soon as possible because even if it's an old video, then we can tell you what to focus on. And that really is the benefit of this course is we can see and be like, okay, focus on these three things, do these exercises, then work on that over the winter. And then in the spring, you can send in like another video so that we can see that progress and give you like the next stair step work on that for a few months, then send in another video because it is a process, right? Working on your position. It's not going to happen overnight, although this course will help to expedite that. But and then if you're riding all winter and you want to send in a video every other week, by all means do that. But that way you have a lot of flexibility to do the video reviews at, at your leisure, and not be confined by like doing it all at once.
yes. And then they also get lifetime access to the content, right? So they can
Yes.
continue doing it. Someone's asking how long should the course, if they did to it, a little bit each day, how long should it take them to get through it?
I would say you could get through if you were like really dedicated, which I know some of you are, you could get through it in 8 weeks. It's set up on a 6 week drip schedule. So for this first 6 weeks, you get content released each week because there's a ton of stuff in there. And I really want you to go through the framework so you focus on like the most important stuff first and you don't just jump to like your hands because we need to get your seat and your alignment fixed before we worry about your hands. So if you really wanted to get through it in 8 weeks, you could by all means. But I know for some of you, it's like winter and family and all of that. So it's also available to do at your leisure. So lots of flexibility there.
Yeah. And then you guys know the schedule for office hours ahead of time, so it's being constantly released and updated as the months goes on. So you can pre-plan when you're going to attend. If you can't
Yeah.
attend live, it's recorded. Um, and then let's see, question, how much time should people be spending each day on their fitness and on their rider position?
That's like up to you a little bit. But what I've tried to do with this course is make it very applicable to your riding. So you'll have like a fitness routine, like these are the exercises that I need to do to ride better. It's not about go to the gym for 2 hours every single day. Consistency is the most important thing. And I really value having exercises that don't require a lot of equipment that you can do in your living room or at the hotel or at your dad's, like wherever you are, that you can just easily do it regularly. I would say a good baseline is if you can do 20 minutes a day, 5 or 6 times per week, that's such a good starting place. And, set the timer for 20 minutes, move your body. It makes such a big difference in your riding and with your horses. And then from there, you can build up, but you don't want to do too much. Like if you're not used to doing fitness, I don't want you to get hurt and I don't want you to do it all at once. And that's one thing that I worked really hard with a physical therapist to design the exercises in the course so that they are very safe and very targeted to riders. But I'm not going to have you like doing jumping jacks and like burpees and like crazy stuff that's going to get you hurt because I've had that happen to me as well, where I've worked with a trainer and then I was so sore that I couldn't ride. And I don't want that. I want this to be really specific exercises that will help you to ride better, to help you feel more coordinated and more balanced and to strengthen your body in the right places. Because as riders, we need to work on our core and our legs and our symmetry and our coordination. You don't need to work on your biceps. Like that's not going to help you to ride better. And I was really proud too because after my back surgery and I did the whole physical therapy, pretty much all of the exercises that I learned in physical therapy are inside of this course. So it is really exercises that you can do safely at your home, not a lot of equipment, but that will help you to ride better. And it's the more that you can just make it a routine thing and fit your fitness into where it works for you. I had one of the students in the course, she was like, we're all busy. And we're like, how do I have time for fitness? But just doing little things throughout your day, like sitting up straighter or stretching for a moment, or she was actually doing a little bit of a plank on her countertop while she was waiting for her coffee to get made. So you can fit these fitness exercises into your life. It's not that you need to be going to the gym for 2 hours every day.
No, exactly. And with that, I'd like to welcome a few students. Amber, Anna Marie, Jenny, Sherry. Oh my
Awesome.
goodness, the list keeps going. Cindy, Valerie, Susan, and a few more on the list. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have you in the program. I have one or two training questions, Amelia, and then I think maybe there's a little bit of time to go take a look into the course and take a look at the peek at some of the videos,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um, Carrie was asking, what's the best way to know if you're crooked? And that's, kind of like me too. I want to point out in that photo, I'm a very good rider. My seat bones were even. It was my shoulders that weren't. I couldn't figure out for months why I couldn't turn. But how are we supposed to know if we feel like we're straight? How do we tell when we're crooked?
So in the course, I show you how to make one of those rider position shirts and ride with that. And then that gives you a visual and some markers. And so then you'll video yourself a little bit riding and then send it in. And I show you specifically how to do that so we can really see it. And then once you can see it and we can see it, then we can help you to formulate a plan and to understand both the fitness exercises, but then also what to do when you're in the saddle because it is complicated. Like Nicole mentioned, her seat bones were even, but her shoulders were crooked and her spine was crooked, and everyone's a little different. And that's where it gets really hard, and you need to understand what to fix first. So, kind of the building blocks is I always work on your seat first. We got to get your seat in the middle of the saddle. Then we can worry about your legs and your shoulders once your seat is straight. But again, a lot of the riders we work with have had old injuries or joint replacements or scoliosis, or you're very like coordinated with your right hand and can't do anything with your left hand. And so that's where the course is really beneficial because it allows us to personalize a bit more and hone you in on like, don't just go watch the 4,000 hours of content, but really focus on these specific exercises. And then often, once you fix one thing, another little problem pops up. Nick from my team calls it whack-a-mole. Like you fix one thing and then you have this new thing pop up. Then you got to fix that and then the new thing. But that's always the fun journey is once you check one item off your box, you're ready to move on and fix the next thing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you with that. Um, Esther had a great question. How do you connect deeply without sitting heavy? She's been taught to be light and following, but she's also supposed to have a deep seat. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a good one. It definitely it's always a balance, and I think we kind of felt that when we were doing our breathing and moving our seat around because you want your seat to allow the movement if and you need to have the right amount of tone. So if you're just like loose and floppy like a sack of potatoes, you're not going to have any organization in your body and it's going to be difficult to give your horse aids. But if you're also like really stiff and locking or bouncing in the saddle, then that's not good either. So it is finding that perfect balance. And then there's also moments, so in the last part of the course when where we go into effective riding, that's when we talk a little bit more once you have your seat, how to use your seat. So there are moments that you sit deeper. For example, when you're riding a half halt or if you're trying to collect or slow your horse down, you're going to sit deeper. There's moments that you sit a little lighter. For example, sometimes on a young horse, um, not all the time, but sometimes you might need to lighten your seat so long as it's a very conscious thing to allow your horse to go forward. So that's where we get into a little bit more of the details once you're just following with your seat, where you can find different ways of using your seat. And that's where it gets really fun. That's like the art of riding. So let me show quickly, we're almost out of time. Um,
Cindy says, after I finish the course, can I bring my horse and train with you for a week?
yes, please.
I think we'd all like to do that after the course, wouldn't we?
We do occasionally have that. It's always fun. I love working with students that have done my online programs because you already know my system and my exercises, and so it makes it so much easier. Okay, so here's a quick peek. Remember, if you want the book to sign up before we sign off today, this is a peek inside of the Rider Position Blueprint course. There is a lot of content in here, which is why you have lifetime access to it. But there's a bunch of welcome stuff, and then you'll see it's very organized sequentially so that you know what to focus on first. So we start off with the basics of rider position, just getting your saddle and your stirrups the right length and focusing on your breathing, all that good stuff. Then we go into the alignment, and each one of these you can click into. There is a pre-recorded video or there's some written stuff if you like to read. There's a video, and then there's also where here you can ask any questions that you have about that video specifically. There's also a Facebook group where you can post. We always love to see your smiling faces and your horses. And then, yeah, so there's a lot here. There's also a fitness section. So all the fitness exercises are in a different course. But basically, you can see there's tons of videos, tons of exercises. You have lifetime access. There's also um, a podcast if you're interested in doing that. Let me see if I can get to the fitness section. Oh, there's a survey for you to fill out. Um, yeah, there's a lot. But and also it's pretty easy tech wise. You just log into ameliasdressageacademy.com. You'll have a login there. And then from there, you'll be able to easily access this course. So if you're able to do email and Zoom, you'll be okay to do this course. And we do have a great support team that can help you out if you have any questions or any struggles with accessing the course or submitting your video or anything like that. So that's just a quick little peek inside the course. And I think that's all we
Yeah.
have time for. But thank you all for being here
Yeah.
so much. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, of course. So we're gonna let you go. There's a few more technical questions from people coming in, which I'm gonna stay on and answer. And I know Neve is working in support email and things like that as quickly as we can say, but we will let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. Amelia, thank you so much for being here and sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving. Bye now. All right, questions that are coming in, technical questions. Let's see. Let me just spotlight myself. Jules is asking, please confirm, is the Strides and Rider Position Facebook and accounts separate? Okay, so you use your same email to register for the courses and to log into the learning platform. And then there's a course inside the learning platform that's Strides, and then there's another course that's the Rider Position Blueprint course. So to have access to them, you have to be members of both, right? Because they're two different platforms, or two different courses. But if you don't see them both in there and you know you're both still a member, what's probably happened is you've registered with one with a different email. Just email us at support@AmeliaNewcomb Dressage and we will merge those for you. Um, Let's see what other questions were coming in. My horse deserves to ride better. Yes, that's the same thing. Um, can I watch the beginning of this webinar if I missed it? Yes. I know Neve has been linking them down. If you go back to if you check that email where you were notified of it starting, there's a little link inside there that's uh, getting this email late, watch the replay here, and it takes you directly to a page to watch the live stream. So you can get it in there. Let's see. There was some confusion about the 149 price. There is a payment plan option for this course. So if you don't want to pay the whole amount up front, you can pay for the payment plan, which is a slightly lower amount. And it's a little bit of an easier swallow each month. Um, let's see what else. What questions we have. I feel like I could use some exercises for driving. Yes, I do some of them when I'm driving, some of the core exercises. I find that helps me too. Let's see. I think feel free to ask your technical questions in the chat. Oh, Renee says, I love your shirt. Thank you. I appreciate that. Esther's asking, should I switch from Strides to Rider Position? That's up to you. Strides is an ongoing education program, so you're going to get a lecture each month. You're going to get opportunities for video review more frequently. You're going to get all the guest lectures. It kind of goes back to that question about what you want to learn, right? If you want to really spend the time focusing on your rider position, you could for sure do an intensive in there and focus on that, learn how to make that killer amazing turkey. But if you're also looking at you want to learn how to do the canter better, if you want to learn about half halts, if you want to what are some of our other topics for the new year? Connection, we have a month on connection, things like that, then I would stay in strides. It kind of depends on just what you prefer. Um, Esther's asking, do I still have access to past strides that I missed if I switch? So to clarify, you get lifetime access to Amelia's programs that you are enrolled and paid for. So for strides, if you've been enrolled for the last 6 months, but you haven't looked at the material, when you leave, you still get access, you still have those last 6 months. They just live in individual workshops in your course. Which we're happy to walk you through that and how you find that. So you can still access everything behind. If you have access to the archive in the back end, you don't get lifetime access to that because that wasn't you get to explain it a little more simply, you get lifetime access to the content released during your membership in Strides. Great question. If you have more questions about that, Esther, feel free to either call the hotline or email specifically. We can give you some more answers specifically on Strides questions and stuff like that. Okay, I think I have gotten to most of the technical questions. So if there's anyone else here on the call that has technical questions before I let you guys go, I'm happy to answer them. If not, we will let you go back to your Black Friday shopping. All right, I think we finished it all. All right. We will let you go. Neve and I will be in the support email if you think of anything. We'll make sure that insider info, if you decide to purchase in the next 5 minutes, you probably will still get those bonuses because we wrap up the support emails before we take those bonuses off. So you still have a few minutes to do that. And we will see you in the course. Have a lovely day. Bye now.